Fellow Toastmasters, this is a unique honor and a privilege for me. And over the years, I realized what a privilege it is that we come from an international district. We have our great neighbors to the north, Canada, allied with the United States in so many ways, and particularly in Toastmasters. I've learned to have so many friends from north of the border over the years. Been there many times and hope to go back again. So it's a real honor now, and I ask you all to raise your glasses and to toast to the office of Prime Minister of Canada.
The office of Prime Minister of Canada.
And now I'd like to introduce Carolyn Horde to do the toast of the office of the President of the United States.
I stand here today as a proud Canadian. Proud that I live on the other side of the world's longest unprotected border, the 49th parallel. Proud that I can come across it to meet with my friends, neighbors, and fellow Toastmasters. Though we are separated, we are joined by the mutual trust and respect of our people and our governments. For this reason, I ask you all to please rise and join me, a proud Canadian, in a toast to the President of the United States.
Our Toastmaster this evening is an award-winning international speaker and publisher, author who has worked with many businesses around the U.S. and Canada on their leadership skills, sales, and communication skills. Her District 6 leadership roles include as a past area governor co-trainer, and chartering Power Talk Toastmasters, an advanced specialty club for professional and aspiring professional speakers. Natalia Pumdick is a multipreneur. I did practice this. That's right. A full-time real estate investor, business founder, and owner of 3 speaking companies. A Spanish language school and the Speaker Biz Institute, where she conducts private one-on-one with small groups with business development coaching for emerging professional speakers. She says she really owes it all to District 6 Toastmasters for giving her the encouragement to pursue her endeavors, and is very grateful for the friends who have supported her all along the way. She believes that in order to reach our personal and professional development goals, we must all have a dream. Coupled with a positive attitude, it is the starting point of all achievement. Please help me welcome our Toastmaster for this evening, Natalia Pumdick.
We must all have a dream. Without one, we lack definiteness of purpose. Napoleon Hill, author of one of my favorite books, Think and Grow Rich, said that definiteness of purpose is the starting point of all achievement. You must first know where you are going if you are ever to have any hopes of arriving there. So always keep your eye on the future. Definiteness of purpose is more than just goal setting. It's a roadmap, a strategic plan for achieving an overall objective. Goals represent specific steps along the way. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Toastmasters, distinguished guests, and all of our dear friends, our speakers here tonight not only have a definiteness of purpose, but they too have a roadmap, a strategic plan, goals and steps that they have followed through on and achieved along the way. It started at the club level. The club level speech contest sent their best speaker to the area level speech contest. And at the area level speech contest, all the clubs were very proud of their speakers when they competed at the area level. But only one winner from each of those areas was selected to advance to the division level speech contest. Now at the division level speech contest, all the areas in that division were represented by the best speakers in those areas at that division level. And yet only one continued to advance to tonight's International District 6 Speech Level Contest. Every one of our 10 contestants tonight deserve our respect. They have worked very hard to attain this level of competition. And any one of them may potentially be crowned the world champion of public speaking when they advance in August to Washington, D.C. for the semifinals and finals of World Championship of Public Speaking. It is a privilege tonight to hear the 10 best speakers in our district compete tonight. This is going to be an exciting evening. We are going to raise the roof. We're going to rock the house. We are going to have so much fun tonight. And all of you, as our audience members tonight, are going to walk away perhaps influenced, informed, or inspired. Our speakers may influence you to see things from a different perspective. They might inform you on very important issues or topics as subject matter experts. Or perhaps they will inspire you with a call to action. Before we begin our contest tonight, we have a few rules to go over to make sure that everything runs smoothly this evening. One of the first rules tonight is that we ask that we please turn off all the phones so we don't have any distractions, disruptions. We also ask that there please be no photos or videotaping unless you have specific permission from the individual contestants. We ask that you respect their individual copyrights and intellectual property as well as their right to privacy. So please no posting on social media such as YouTube. And we also ask that you be respectful of the 1 minute of silence that will take place in between each of the contestants' presentations so that the judges may carefully consider the scores on the ballots. All of the contestants have already been briefed on the contest rules. They know that the timing will be from 5 to 7 minutes. They also have the entire stage to use as they so choose for their presentation this evening. It is just the stage area. They will not be walking out into the audience. Protests may only be done by contestants or the judges, and in those matters, please see our district chief judge. Now, I'm going to ask our district chief judge if all the judges have been briefed and if everyone on the judging team and ballot team is present.
Madam Toastmaster, district officers, fellow Toastmasters, and guests, all contestants are eligible to compete in tonight's international contest, and all judges, timers, and ballot counters have been briefed. Let the contest begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Judge. Let us go over the program speaking order. You may want to grab a pen and your program that is on the table. Contestant number 1 is Janet Fuchek. Janet Fuchek. Contestant number 2, Nancy Nordland. Nancy Nordland. Contestant number 3, Kenny Ray Morgan. Kenny Ray Morgan. Contestant number 4, Caroline Lingstead. Caroline Linkstead. Contestant number 5, Levi Peterson. Excuse me, Levy Peterson. Did I say it right first time?
Yes, Levi.
Thank you, Levi Peterson. Number 6, Washington Helps. Washington Helps. Contestant number 7, Jake Johnson. Jake Johnson. Contestant number 8, Raymond Norton. Raymond Norton. Contestant number 9, Faith Jackson. Faith Jackson. And contestant number 10, Amit Ghosh. Amit Ghosh. So from the top to the bottom on your program, the numbers should read like this: 1, 10, 6, 9, 7, 4, 3, 2, 8, 5. Are we all on the same page? Then we shall begin. When I introduce the contestants, I will announce their contestant number, their name, their speech title, then their speech title, the contestant's name, and then we will applaud them. So let's practice that. Let me say contestant number 15, Margaret Johnson. I love Toastmasters. I love Toastmasters. Margaret Johnson. Let's observe our first moment of silence. Contestant number 2, Nancy Nordland. What if? What if Nancy Nordland?
The largest Powerball jackpot was just reached in January of 2016. How many of you bought a ticket or two? How many of you thought, even for a second, what if I won? What if? 2 words that when put together cause us to dream, relive, or ponder. The answer to the question, what if, is something probably humans have been thinking about since probably the first caveman said, hey, what would happen if I put these 2 rocks together? But it also can be translated into the human condition of time. The founder of philosophical Taoism once said, his name is Lao Tzu, if you are depressed, you're living in the past. If you are anxious, you're living in the future. If you are at peace, you're living in the present. What if can start any thought to the past, future, or present. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and very distinguished guests. It is here where I'd like to start this evening. What if you could find peace living in the present? Human history has been filled with stories of individuals searching for the one elusive answer to what will make peace out of inner chaos. In those stories, they meditate, they climb to a mountaintop retreat, they live with monks, they may follow a shaman, they could even go to church on Sunday. What if I told you I have found inner peace? Yeah, if you're skeptical, like I would be sitting in your chair thinking, really? Nancy, you have found what humans have been searching for since the dawn of time, and you're going to tell it to us in a Toastmaster speech? Yes, I am. You see, Lao Tzu is right. It has everything to do with the amount of energy that you spend worrying about the past or the future that keep you from focusing on the present. Now, truth be told, I don't meditate. I have not been to a mountaintop retreat, I haven't lived with monks, and I haven't followed a shaman. I did, however, while innocently driving home 4 years ago at 12:15 a.m., ironically on a Friday the 13th, get hit virtually head-on by a drunk driver going the wrong direction in my lane on I-94. Reports say we were both going at least the speed limit of 60 miles an hour. 6 inches was the difference between my life and my death. I can't tell you if I actually hit my head in the car, but my brain was certainly scrambled against my skull. I remember nothing about the days after the accident except for what I wrote in my journal. I wrote about the pain, the constant headaches, the loss of short-term memory, the diagnosis of a severe concussion, panic attacks when I drove, the loss of my car, and the relief that I didn't die. Later, I wrote about long-term memory loss, countless doctor's visits, trips to the neurologist, the skepticism in the insurance company of internal damage. I mean, you can see a broken bone. You can't see a broken brain. Finally, after a year and a half of arguing with the doctors, the diagnosis, permanent damage, and a referral to Sister Kenny. I was a call center manager well on my way to the next promotion to a six-figure income. In that life, I don't think I slept. I was constantly distracted. I did emails and, I looked at metrics and statistics. I looked at customer satisfaction scores. I looked at them every hour on the hours to make sure that my staff was doing exactly what they should do. Metrics were everything, and I was relentless. Numbers stopped having meaning after the accident, and I could no longer do that job. 6 months later, when I didn't get better, I took a step back from that life. I had to start over again. What if that accident didn't happen? Would I be a VP in that company today? The energy that I spent lamenting of all that I had lost in the accident kept me from my ability to heal. I was depressed, and there was nothing I could do to change it. With the loss of long-term memory, I started being very anxious about my future. I mean, what was I going to be like at 50, 60, 70, 80, 90? Would I remember anyone that I had met since the accident? Would my memory ever come back? Would I be able to give a Toastmasters speech? Would I be a manager again? Would I remember last year's Christmas? The energy that I spent worrying about all that I wouldn't remember made me incredibly anxious and kept me from my ability to heal because I couldn't change it. Somewhere though, the anger started to dissipate, the fear lifted, and the depression went away. And I started using my energy to heal. I found inner peace because I took control. I make every day the best day I possibly can make it because you can't control tomorrow. I keep a journal. I write everything down. I use Facebook, my smartphone, to document my life. I am a manager again, and well, I'm here tonight giving you a Toastmaster speech. Now, I will never have the memory I used to have, but I've developed ways around that to cope. Now, I think, what if I didn't have the accident? Would I be caught up in all the stress and chaos of my former life? Remember, if you are depressed, you're living in the past. If you are anxious, you're living in the future. If you are at peace, you're living in the present. Now, I don't recommend a near-death experience to any one of you for finding that inner peace, but I do hope sharing my story with you tonight makes you want to use your energy differently. I hope I've inspired change. Think about it. There's always going to be something like winning a Powerball that's going to cause you to dream big, but don't make your dreams intangible. What if you started thinking today, how about I stop obsessing about yesterday and worrying about tomorrow and focus just on today? What if you too found peace living in the present? Madam Toastmaster.
One minute of silence, please. Contestant number 6, Washington Helps, Leap of Faith. Leap of Faith, Washington Helps.
Madam Toastmaster, honored guests, what was your greatest leap of faith? Was it getting married? Was it having children? Or was it taking on a new job or moving to a new city? Well, for me, I've had several leaps of faith, but one of my greatest and perhaps earliest happened many years ago when I was a 15-year-old senior at Manchester High School in Jamaica. Back then, I was a glorified bookworm. Just give me a book and I'd be happy. I was not athletic in any sense of the word. But that all changed one afternoon. As usual, my head was down in the books, off in my own little world. But then, I heard a sound. I heard excitement. They were shouting and cheers and laughter. Boom, set, spike. If ever there was a sound that described fun, this sound was exactly it. I could not resist. I leapt from my chair and I went out onto the third floor balcony. And looking down, I saw a group of students playing volleyball. But this was no ordinary volleyball training, because these students, they were having fun. They were enjoying themselves. And looking on, I was drawn to what I was seeing. I wanted to be a part of that. No, I had to be a part of that. But I was conflicted. I was afraid. Would I be any good at this sport? Would they laugh or make fun of me? Worse yet, would they even accept me on the team? But something was telling me to at least give it a try. And so I decided to take that leap. No, not from the third floor balcony, but the leap of faith to join that team. So the next day, as scared as I was, I showed up in my shorts and sneakers and I joined. I'm so glad I did. Just imagine all that I would have missed out on had I not. Countless hours of fun, making new friends, traveling all over Jamaica, representing my high school in volleyball tournaments. Beach volleyball even. How cool was that? I was no longer this one-dimensional bookworm. I was now athlete. But none of that would have been possible had I not taken that leap of faith. But as big as that leap was, I took an even greater leap when I decided to come to the United States for college. As a young man, I wanted to travel. And what better way than to go to college in another country? So I applied to a few, took the SATs and other required exams, and waited. Weeks, months, then finally, a thick envelope arrived in the mail. I was bursting with anticipation. And sure enough, it was my acceptance letter to the University of North Dakota. I was ecstatic. I ran up told everybody, and my parents, they were so proud of me. But after all the excitement settled, then came the dreaded moving day, August 8, 2010. I zipped my last suitcase shut, packed it in the car, and turned to say goodbye. But then reality set in. Anxiety fell on me like a ton of bricks. I was overcome with emotion and fear as I thought, what am I doing? What was I thinking? Leaving all that I knew behind, all my family, the white sand beaches, the warm tropical climate, the food, the music, the culture, and to go where? The frozen North Dakota tundra? Was I going to be lonely there? What if I failed? What if I ran out of money? I started crying like a baby. Saying goodbye to my parents and my two young sisters that morning was one of the hardest things I ever did. I started to make it to the car, eventually. But the crying did not stop there. All the way to the airport, so much so that my brother, who was driving, had to ask, are we going to survive the trip to the airport? Let alone the trip all the way to North Dakota. But I did survive. Amidst all the uncertainty and fear that morning, I took that leap of faith. And because of it, my horizons were absolutely broadened. I got to meet people from all walks of life, play intercollegiate volleyball, do research, and travel to several countries. And on top of all that, I got a world-class education, which enabled me to land a fantastic job through which I can now afford to help my family back home in Jamaica. I have found that learning about faith, taking risks, and courage come not only from our own experiences, but can come from the strangest of places. In fact, one of the most profound lessons that I have learned came from an animated movie. Now, those of you here who have children, chances are you've seen the movie Kung Fu Panda 3. Now, in that movie, there was a Kung Fu master who was retiring and needed to find a successor. And who did he choose? One of his own students. But the story doesn't end there with the classic, the student has now become the master. No, it goes deeper. The first day he took over was a complete disaster. Everything was going wrong, and he was ready to throw in the towel and quit. But he met with a retired master who counseled him and told him, it's all right to fail, because if you only do what you can do, you will never be better than what you are. Coming from what essentially is a children's cartoon, this was an amazing message that is brutally true. Unless we challenge ourselves to go beyond where we are, to do more, to step out of our comfort zone some more, then we'll never grow and improve as individuals. Taking a leap of faith means that you take a risk. You step out of your comfort zone. Because if you approach it from the perspective, the glass being half full, or with the mindset of, what do I have to lose? Then we will overcome one of our greatest barriers to success, which is our own selves. As the saying goes, we are our own worst enemy. One of America's greatest leaders, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., once said, faith is taking the first step, even though you don't see the entire staircase. So what about you today? Will you take your next leap of faith? I hope you do. Madam Toastmaster.
Let's observe 1 minute of silence. Contestant number 8, Raymond Norton. Is this really worth it? Is this really worth it, Raymond Norton?
Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests. Have you ever been inspired to follow a dream, only later to ask, is this really worth it? I've asked that very question when following one of my own dreams. My inspiration came from a movie, the remake of The Alamo. Davy Crockett stood on top of the old mission, lifted his violin, playing beautifully, soothing the hearts of the enemy. At that moment, I knew I want to play the violin just like Davy Crockett. And hopefully, not get shot for it. 2 weeks later, I'm standing in the living room of my new violin instructor, Roxanne, who's about to dash my dream to pieces. Raymond, the violin is considered to be one of the most difficult instruments in the world to learn. It can take you years to master. First and foremost, we must begin with the basics, the scales. I said, Roxana, I'm 45 years old. I don't have time for the scales. Well, you better find time. Because if you expect to play with any degree of proficiency, it all starts with the scales. 2 long lessons later, and I'm asking that question. Is this really worth it? I have no rhythm, no timing, and I'm even told no talent. In reality, I am simply fiddling with a fantasy. I even had other musicians apologize to the audience before I played my first note. It is a miracle that I stayed with it. But fortunately, tenacity triumphed over talent. And I discovered playing the violin became very rewarding. And not just to me, but to others too. One night I found myself playing some songs for the inmates in the county jail. There in the middle of the room is Mike. Pretty tough guy. Only at the moment, he is silently weeping. I had just touched his heart by unknowingly playing his mother's favorite song. And that melody carried Mike over the rainbow to better days and into the loving arms of his mother. None of the other inmates were immune to his lonesome weeping. They just sat there silently and let him have that moment. More recently, I played violin for my friend Marvin, who suffered a stroke and is confined to a wheelchair. I was playing from a song list I knew he would love. And it didn't take long. And he started to weep. And as I looked into Marvin's eyes, I could see he's not in the room with me any longer. He's a little boy again with his daddy, who's playing beautiful music to Marvin on his own violin. And I just let Marvin take all the time he needed to relive those beautiful memories through his tears. When I started on my journey to play violin like Davy Crockett, I never imagined that my personal dream would one day become so rewarding and intimate for others. When I dwell on that, when I see people touched like this by my dream, it's enough to make me weep too. We all have dreams. Dad's dream was to take up blacksmithing, just like you would imagine in the Wild West. Finally, at age 48, he acted on his dream. And after he gained some talent, he began to create incredible works of art made from forged metal. To me, the most beautiful aspect of Dad's art is the impact that it has on the people that receive it. How it's cherished and treasured. But most people will never know the price that Dad must pay to make their beautiful art. I almost lost my dad a while ago to cancer. And it took a long time for his health and his strength to recover. And some of his art needs a lot of hammering and muscling around. And those pieces will literally rob him of all his strength. For 2 and 3 days, he will be laid up in the house trying to recover so he can continue. And ooh, does that frustrate Dad. During those times, I've heard him cuss a blue streak to make a sailor blush. How often, he must ask, as I have, as we all have, is this really worth it? I'm so thankful and proud that at age 77, Dad is still making incredible art. And in this, he taught me a valuable lesson. The best person to answer that question is not the dreamer. It's the recipient of the dream. I am standing here in a room full of big dreamers. And I know some of you are stuck on that question. But I also know those that are influenced and inspired by your dreams, they're saying yes. Yes, it is really worth it, even if you have to start with the scales. Madam Toastmaster.
1 minute of silence, please.
I had a great time. I hope all of you had a great time. This meeting is adjourned.